Welcome to the Northeast Kingdom Voice. I'm your host, Scott Wheeler. Today's guest is Justin Lavely, the publisher of the North Star Monthly in Danville. Welcome to the show, Justin.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
Right. Well, it's been a long time coming. You and I have been in the kind of the same realm of reality when it comes to the Northeast Kingdom. We both love Northeast Kingdom history, and we both, until July, have published history publications. Well, yours is history and news. Mine has been history. So you have been down in Danville, and I have been in Derby. So it's time for you to come on.
Well, I'm happy to be here, Scott, and put a face to the email exchange we seem to have been having for several months now. And it's it's good. It's we're very much alike in a lot of ways. The North Star does a lot of history features and has for since 1989 when it was sort of reborn. And we also do some sort of regional news coverage too. We kind of look for stories that go underreported and are of interest to a Northeast Kingdom wide audience. And when we find stories like that, we dig into them. And so we're a little unique as a monthly, as you know.
Right. Yeah. And you were recently honored. Well, in recent months, you were recently honored by the New England Press Association.
Yeah, last year we got Newspaper of the Year in our category of specialty organizations. So that was nice. We had a really, really busy year last year with one investigative story in general that took on several months at the beginning of 2025. So yeah, it was a busy year last year, but it was a good time too.
Right. Yeah, and you mentioned that we've been in communication for the last several months because last year I started contemplating the end to the Northland Journal. I'm not a spring chicken, as my mother used to say, that she wasn't a spring chicken anymore. Well, I'm not a spring rooster anymore. And but in the middle of everything, I decided to almost kick the bucket. I got a great taste of my mortality. And I didn't know if I was going to come out of that, but I did. And I came out better than ever before. But so we've been talking for several months. And so we are going to be, I don't know the exact word we came up with, but we're kind of folding the journal into the North Star Monthly, and the journal will no longer exist. And but you are taking on the subscribers, and you're going to, hopefully they stick around because while the journal is not the North Star and the North Star isn't the journal, I think it's a really good fit.
I think so too. And I hope the loyal subscribers that you have feel the same way. I mean, I guess we threw around lots of words for it, but I guess, it's more of like a handoff, is the way to put it. I mean, so we're going to honor the Northland Journal subscriptions. And we sort of have tweaked it a little bit where anybody who is either up for renewal within this month, the last few months, we're pushing their expiration dates ahead a little bit so that they get a chance to get a couple copies of the North Star, take a look at it, decide if it's for them. And then the rest of the system should work the way it always has with them, getting notices when it comes time.
Well, you know what? Don't say that it's going to work the same way, because after my wife died, I'll fully admit, after my wife died, it was tough because a lot of people, they only saw me and they saw my writers and everything, but they didn't realize that the brains behind the function of the journal was really her. And that proved very problematic for me. She did try to help me while she was dying, better understand it. So yeah, things were kind of tough since then. But fortunately, I've had like the same editor, Janine Young, who I met at the Chronicle during my Chronicle years. She's, I think she's 80 now, and she edited for me for I think 23 or 24 years because she says it. The mental gymnastics of editing kept her brain flexible.
Mhm.
So yeah. So tell me a little bit about the history of the North Star, because you mentioned 1989, but it actually goes back far further.
Yeah, well, the original North Star started in 1807 when Ebenezer Eaton came to Danville bringing a printing press with him. And the Eatons ran it for, I think it was like 50 or 60 years in the 1800s, and then sold it to other people for the second half of that century. And then in 1889, a fire wiped out most of the village and the green area and took the press and the paper with it. And then they came back and they tried to make a go of it for a few years and they just couldn't make it work. And they folded up. And then it stayed that way for close to 100 years until the Lakeys in Danville resurrected it and gave it back the North. It used to be called just the North Star, and then they added the North Star Monthly to it because they changed the frequency from weekly to monthly.
Right.
And then they set it up as more or less what you see it as today in terms of format and style and all of that. And then that got sold at one point to the Hoffers, who put their stamp on it, and the Tanners were part of that group too. And they lended their voice to it and made a couple of changes. And then I took it over in 2008 from the Hoffers and the Tanners, and I've sort of gently put my stamp on it over the years too. I've been here for I think it's like 17 or 18 years now. It goes fast, so.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So what was your background that prompted you to go into ownership of a publication? Because mine was a reporter with the Chronicle, and which is still a fine publication.
Well, I was crazy enough to major in journalism in college. I decided I wanted to do this in high school. It was, right around the late 90s where, journalism really hadn't been disrupted as much as it is now by the things that are out there. So I decided that's what I wanted to do. And I went to college for it. And then out of college, I got an internship working for a weekly paper in New Hampshire. That paper was owned by, a sort of I wouldn't say a large corporation, but they owned like 13-ish newspapers all around the state of New Hampshire. So that experience for working for a corporation that way sort of opened my eyes to what that was like. And I decided that I wanted to do this on my own terms and in my own way. And coincidentally, my contributing editor now for the North Star is the guy who hired me as an intern at that paper 20 something years ago. He lived in Danville at the time, and he alerted me that the North Star might be available. So it was one of those timing issues where I had decided it was time for me to go my own way, and the North Star was available, and that's how we get to where we are now.
Do you ever have any moments where you kind of wish that friend of yours hadn't contacted you?
Well, this is a tough business to be in. There's no doubt about it. And him and I are always, when we talk, he's old enough where he experienced the heydays of newsrooms and investigative reporting and journalism the way it was in the 80s, 70s through there. My life in journalism has pretty much been in the middle of the disruption the entire time. So it's a constant state of reinvention and, adoption of new technology and delivery methods and printing and the web and all that stuff. So I've kind of been forced to sort of adopt all that because it's just the world that I've always been in. So yeah, we often talk about that, but yeah, there are other professions, I guess, that would have been more, would have required less hours and probably paid more money. But this is apparently where the universe wanted me. So this is where I am.
I tell people because there's a belief that people think we're all like on the same pay scale as like say Stephen King. I said, no, no, no. I took a vow of poverty when I decided to do this. You talk about investigative reporting is also in. I don't like. I look at some history is a lot of investigating. Like the my favorite series that I've done over the years. I've probably written about it at nauseum is the story of space research and the assassination of Gerald Bull at J Peak. They own the ballistics factory there, and it was a story of this rocket scientist or big gun scientist. Then, to make a long story short, he was assassinated by the Mossad, um, and and a lot of people are closed mouthed about it. The ones who really, really played a role, but I managed to get an interview with Arthur Aiken, and he was on his final journey through life. He was ailing, and he was one of the people who helped open up the place, and then open up the place in their establishment in Belgium. So since he was on his way out, he didn't fear the Mossad or the CIA in trying to take him out. So yeah, that's the one thing I gave up my time as an investigative reporter, but then I did a lot of investigative stuff when it came to history. So, and I'm sure you have found that to be the case sometimes with yourself, even where you are able to even take what's going on today and tie it to the past.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially in the Northeast Kingdom, there's usually a historical tie-in that you can, sort of go back to. And I've lived here most of my life, except for the 4 or 5 years that I spent in New Hampshire and then came back. So, I won't claim to be a history expert at all, but I've been here long enough to know some of the lore, and I know a lot of the landscapes and a lot of the people. And you can certainly draw lines usually between what's happening now and what's happened before. And every month we dig in to historical copies of the old 1800s North Stars, and we put together like a short column, and we pull out tidbits from those old issues. And it's actually miraculous how many things are still applicable today. I mean, they're still complaining about the same things now they were
Oh,
complaining about
absolutely.
150 years ago. Same thing.
Right. It's like I've gone through while doing my research. I've gone through old town records from like the 200 years ago or 150 years ago. It was the same thing. How do we pay for our schools? Teachers feeling underappreciated, parents not feeling that they're heard, and it just it's kind of cylindrical. And the more things change, the more they stay the same. You mentioned you're not an expert. Well, that's the thing is with me. Uh, a lot of people think I'm smarter than I am, and anybody who truly knows me knows that I'm not. But uh, it's the power of knowing people, of knowing people who know, or like I have several people who submit articles. Some of them have done it for years, and some of them are, quote, experts in their field, but a lot of them are, they live that the sections of history that they write about. And, but, the journal wouldn't be what it is today if it wasn't for my contributors, which I'm sure you would say that's true with the North Star.
Oh, 100%. We are very fortunate to have several longtime contributors. We have columnists that go back that predate me even being here,
Right.
5 years or more. And then we've had feature writers over the years that have been here for, multiple years and written, I don't even, probably close to 100 stories. We're very fortunate. We've had some great writers over the years, and, we're always on the lookout for bringing new voices in too, which we've, done pretty well over the last year.
Yeah, and we've talked about having having me contribute, and very like I know we share some of the same contributors as well. At least I believe we still do. I know Gordon Dubois used to contribute to both of us, and I have really enjoyed his work.
Yep. I just heard from Gordon a few days ago, actually, on some of the things that he was working on. So I expect we're going to see some contributions from him in the next couple of months. Um, and then we have, I think that might be the only one we have. And Beth Cannell's done some writing for you
Yeah.
in the past, I
You,
believe, too. She's done a lot for me, too.
you know, Beth Cannell, her writing and my writing are vastly different, but she is such an outstanding writer. But the thing is, not only is she an outstanding writer, she her research skills are simply amazing. She ranks up there with another guy that actually I just forwarded you an article by him because I didn't fit it in time before the end of the journal. Was by Dr. Alan Yale, my history teacher at North Country High School, who went on to head up the history program at what at the time was Lyndon State College, and there is another man whose talents of actually getting down to the nitty gritty and finding the minute details that is, again, it's just amazing. And I rank Beth up with him when it comes to the ability to find things.
Yeah, I mean, she's got a series going now where she explores, different families of immigrants that came to this country and their background and what they contributed to the Northeast Kingdom. And I think we're on the third installment of that column that's going to run throughout the year. So, yeah, that's been really interesting to read.
Of course, she wrote about the Handy family because uh, the Handy family in the Ice Empire, and if she hasn't yet, she will be because those were the Lebanese immigrants, and they started so much of the ice industry here, and we had quite a Lebanese population up in the north part of the Northeast Kingdom. The yeah the Handys, the Asafs, uh, and just a whole group of them. And the one thing about a lot of these immigrants, especially the Lebanese immigrants, boy, they hit the ground running. They came here because I've recorded that as well. They came here and they they came here poverty stricken, and they moved. Like anytime you see handies, like handies over in I think St. Albans, that's all Lebanese immigrants, and they all spread out from the Northeast Kingdom.
Yeah, we have handy families down here this way too. I'm not sure if they're related or not,
No,
but
no, they're all the same. Yep, they're all the same. I believe they all began their journey. If I remember right, they all began their U.S. journey as well, Northeast Kingdom journey in Newport, and then they spread out. Then they spread out down to your section. They spread out down to the Burlington region, and whenever you see the name Handy, if they're from uh, that family of immigrants, to this day, most of them are really hard workers. And they didn't begin with the name Handy as it is spelled now. It's spelled a bit differently.
did they
So,
change themselves or did we
oh,
did we do that?
I think we kind of helped them. Probably, it's like um, up here you have, and they're intermingled with the Handies too. Is the name Esaf? Esaf is Uessaff, but then Louisa Esaf, no, Asaf was Assaff, and but they were all the same. It's like the producer of this show is Todd Paronto, Pronto. Well, his grandfather was he didn't like having to spell it the other way, the French way, Parenteau. So they anglicized it.
Yeah, that happened to a lot of those names up this way. I mean, mine might have been one of them. I'm not sure what it used to be, but yeah, I've run into that a lot.
Right. Um, so tell me a little more like about the publication, what my readers might find in your publication.
Well, they're going to find frequently we have historical based features like you've run the Northland Journal, so they're going to find that, which they're probably going to be used to. We've got a long-standing collection of columnists. We've got Rachel Siegel, who writes a financial column. Um, we've got some opinion or sort of lifestyle columnists like Donna Garfield, who's been writing for many, many years. Abby Pollender, Bob Potter's a reverend in the area, and he writes a column for us. We've just added Amanda Yorish, who's a young resident of Orleans County, and she writes, which is it's really kind of neat. She writes sort of a new age, a Gen Z column where she talks about cottagecore, which I knew nothing about because apparently I'm too old for that kind of thing. But it sounds an awful lot like the Back to the Land movement. And she's just sort of writing that from her perspective, which has been kind of really interesting to read. We mentioned Beth Cannell and Gordon. We have them. I'm trying to think of any other writer. Oh, Tim Lenahan, who lives in Island Pond, a photographer by trade, and I think he's a pastor as well. And he's been
Right.
writing some articles for us from that area and from down here. He comes this way as well, also. I'm sure I'm missing a bunch of people that I'm going to regret. Oh, Tim McKay, who lives in Peacham, he's been writing for uh, over 10 years now, and he writes sort of science-based columns. We have Mark Breen from the Fairbanks Museum, who writes a weather-based column every single month. And I'm sure that that's only half of the people who
Right.
are important and contribute to the North Star. And if I forget any of them, I'm really sorry, but that's what you can expect in there. And it's, the North Star, I kind of view it as like an alternative publication in the area. And I don't know how much, I'm sure you thought about this too, but when the journal was operating, the Northeast Kingdom had two dailies, a weekly, and two monthlies.
Yeah.
The kingdom is not exactly starved of coverage. There's I wouldn't it's not really competitive because none of them were really working against each other, but it's got a lot of publications operating in the area. So you've got to kind of differentiate yourself. And I think as the North Star, we try to be sort of that alternative sort of news magazine slash historical feature publication. So they're going to see a lot of I assume what they liked about the Northland Journal, and they're going to see some new things in the
Right.
North Star that they probably not as familiar with.
Right. You know, one area that you're really good at is where just I never really made the leap. Maybe it was just because I'm a little bit older. Is you provide a lot of online content. Like whereas I provide social media content because I think part of the magic of the journal is my identity, my social media stuff, my public stuff, but I never really made the leap to just a real online publication because you provide online publication and paper version. Do they get both or they get one or the other?
They get both. The price is actually the same, so it's a question of what they prefer. And we still have our longest running subscribers. There are still plenty of them that only want the print issue. That's what they like. That's all they get. And then there are people who want more than that, and then they get the digital part as well. And that whole digital side kind of went into overdrive in the last few years just because of the changes in, I'm sure you saw this, in print costs and mailing costs.
Yeah, yeah.
The problem that we have is that the North Star is sort of bound at its page count. It just the way that the costs work, we're at 32 pages, maybe 36, and we can't fit everything. We've all the great work that people do throughout the month into that without significantly cutting it down and reducing it. So I just determined a few years ago that the better idea was to make that all live sort of on a digital landscape that's available for people that want to get it that way. And then from there, we had to figure out a way that we were going to deliver that. And we came up with the newsletter system that we have now, where we have a newsletter every Friday that's more sort of current events and news based. And then we have two every month that are more, we call it Kingdom Currents, and it's more lifestyle, events, history, sort of that sort of lighter side of what we do. And those have been hugely successful, frankly, more successful than I thought they were going to be when I first started them. I didn't know what the appetite was for that kind of thing. And our mailing list just every month seems to grow and grow and grow and grow. So it's something kind of interesting. And that's what I was talking about in the beginning, where it's like the delivery methods have constantly been in flux since I've been in this business. And, you kind of have to have all of the avenues for people to choose from. So you can reach everyone that you're trying to reach.
We only have about a little over 5 more minutes left, and I know we could go on forever about it. One area that I see change in the landscape, both good and bad, dramatically is AI. AI, I think, is going to change. I can't say I'm an expert on AI, but the more I see it, the more I'm both amazed, excited, and terrified. I wouldn't say terrified, but it's really. I think it's changing a lot. I've personally kind of enjoyed it in the sense of it's a fine line when you do history. You got to be careful about altering history, as in altering the photos, but sometimes you can use it to clear up things. And still, when I do that, I always mention that the photos have been retouched.
Yeah, or enhanced. Yeah.
Yeah. And
all that stuff is sort of built into Photoshop now anyway. Even if you don't know you're doing it, the software itself has kind of a lot of it has AI baked into it. When you say touch this photo up, it's kind of doing it in the background anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. When I started at the Chronicle, it's so funny. I came on the edge of the technological, well, I shouldn't say, I was within the technological revolution because I weren't using typewriters. But when we started at the Chronicle, because Chris Braithwaite, I think his theory was he would rather he was more focused on good news, reporting the news and trying to pay us a decent wage. So we stayed with antiquated technology longer than other people. Like, I remember when I first started, we were looking into like these almost periscopes. It was just little, little screens that we worked on. And so I've actually seen some changes, quite a bit of change myself.
Yeah, the first layout experience I got working for my high school newspaper was on the old light boards with the rollers and the hot paste or glue or whatever it was, where you had to print it out on a paper and then X-Acto knife out the article, and you could cut paragraphs by hand and move them around and put them on the page. And then when I went to work out of college, I had to learn how to use layout software. At that point, it was Quark, which I think I'm not sure if Quark is still around at this point, but it was that for a number of years. And then Adobe sort of took that over. So it's kind of what I was talking about. Like, the whole time things are always changing, and you've just got to kind of, parse through it and use the tools that are helping you do a better job and ignore the ones that aren't. And I guess that's kind of the trick.
Right. Hey, as we wrap up, you do have one other, I don't know if you call it a publication. I don't know if you call it a catalog. Is it your quarterly? Is it a quarterly publication you also do?
The Kingdom Guide, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's twice a year. We have a spring issue and a fall issue, and that's a 100-page full glossy. We call it a relocation guide and community almanac, and it's designed to show both people who are moving to the area, relocating here, and then residents as well, what the kingdom has to offer. So it's got directories in the back of resources and education and some real estate information and data that way, and then it's got profiles of every town in the Northeast Kingdom. It goes into sort of the quirky history of each town and and the geography and where it's located and, what it's like to live there, trying to give people a flavor of the kingdom is how I would put it. And then there's also a couple of articles in each issue. Usually one is a sort of a cooking or a food-based article. And then we do a feature story on, sort of traveling around and learning the history and, sort of a place-based feature.
Now, do your subscribers get that, or is that?
Yeah, that's included by every subscription to the North. If you're a print subscriber to the North Star, that will arrive, USPS willing. It will arrive folded into your North Star. It also exists online. It has its own sort of sub-site within the North Star called discoverthenek.com. Right. And all of the information's up on there as well.
Right. I did just notice that that the U.S. Postal Service sent out more cheer, that the prices are going up again. And it's really tough. Hey, we've got to wrap up, but how can people check out your publication, as in online?
Well, the best way I would encourage them to do it is to go to northstarmonthly.com, and then they can see what we have there just on the general site. I'd really encourage people to sign up for the newsletter, because then you're going to have the best stuff of every week emailed to your inbox on Friday mornings. And that'll give you a real good flavor. And the one thing that we do that I didn't mention before is that we have a paywalled site, but it allows for free views for new people coming in. So if you've never been to our site before, you're going to get a chance to read some free articles before you have to do anything.
Yeah, I really am impressed by your, well, I'm older than you, but you're no youngster either. And but you seem to have really embraced the technology, whereas, I'm a bit of a dinosaur.
You're right. I'm not very young anymore, but I still have a few years, hopefully, left in this business. So I feel like it's important to to meet people where they are of any age, and it just seems like the sort of the younger generations are on the digital side. They want that convenience, and so I've tried my best to bring the North Star in that direction while maintaining what the North Star is, and hopefully we're coming close to doing that.
Okay, well, we've got to wrap this up. It was really great having you on, and hopefully I'll be submitting some work to you right now. I've been wrapping up business, and I've been it's really been a bit surreal. I've operated by deadlines probably now, if you count my years with the Chronicle, and then now it's like the last 25 years. And it's like, I tell my wife, what do I do? What do I do? And it's been, but on the other hand is I'm thinking about doing a couple more books, and see how that goes. But with the cost of mail, and that's, I'm going to play things by ear, but I'm in semi-retirement, remarried, back to having school age kids. So I got a lot going on.
Well, I congratulate you on the semi-retirement. As I've mentioned in a couple of emails, I know enough people in this business to know that what you pulled off in terms of that's not easy to do. It's hard when you're a one-man show and running your own publication. So it's nice that we were able to do this. And I agree, like what you said at the beginning, the North Star and the Journal are so similar that it just feels like a natural handoff.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you for coming on, and thank you for all you do for the Northeast Kingdom.
Thanks, Scott.
All right. And thank you to the viewers for tuning in to another segment of the Northeast Kingdom Voice.